I'm Kevin. I'm 39, and I've spent most of my adult life working in marketing and social media, building brands, chasing trends, and putting out fires when the internet decides to explode. On paper, it all looks great. Solid job, steady paycheck, middle-class life. But here's the truth. Somewhere along the way, I completely lost my ability to think for myself. There was a stretch of time when every single morning felt like stepping into a storm. I'd wake up already tired and anxious, reach for my phone before even saying good morning to my family, and instantly get slammed with a wave of notifications, breaking news, trending TikToks, angry comment threads, and yet another viral scandal I had to handle. My job was to keep up with every opinion, every reaction, every trend. And without even realizing it, I stopped questioning any of it. I just consumed it all. I started believing whatever showed up in my feed. I was getting into arguments online about things I barely understood, feeling right, because thousands of strangers agreed with me. My thoughts weren't even mine anymore. They were just echoes of the loudest voices on the internet. Have you ever felt like that? Like your brain is on autopilot, reacting, scrolling, and absorbing noise, but never really thinking deeply anymore. That's what scares me about this age of collective stupidity. It's not because people are dumb, it's because we're exhausted, overstimulated, and taught to stop questioning. And I wasn't immune. Even as someone who knew the game, I was completely trapped in it. This isn't a lecture, and I'm not here to preach at you. This is my story, a raw, messy confession about how I lost my critical thinking and what it took to get it back. If any of this feels familiar, stick around. And hey, if it resonates with you, share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to The Truth MD, not for me, but because the world needs more people willing to pause, question, and actually think. Working in social media and marketing sounds exciting, right? People picture brainstorming cool campaigns, going viral, maybe even traveling for brand shoots. But in reality, most days felt like sprinting on a treadmill. I couldn't step off. My life was nonstop, tracking TikTok trends, analyzing Instagram metrics, reading YouTube comments, planning posts down to the second. My phone wasn't just a tool, it felt like a handcuff I couldn't take off. And over time, something weird happened. I stopped seeing content for what it was. I wasn't asking, is this true? Does this actually matter? All I saw were numbers, likes, shares, comments. Those numbers became my new definition of truth. There's one campaign I'll never forget. A scandal video about a big brand we worked with went viral overnight. Millions of people were outraged. We knew internally the video was staged. It was meant to be a playful stunt that spiraled way out of control. But after days of scrolling through angry comments, trending hashtags, and heated debates, I started believing the story myself. My brain was tricked by the sheer volume of attention. And that's the scary part. When you see something enough times, your brain assumes it's true. Psychologists call it the illusory truth effect. The more you hear or see something, the more likely you are to accept it, even when you know better. Social media algorithms thrive on this. They push content that triggers emotions because emotion drives engagement and ad dollars. Truth doesn't matter, virality is what wins. I once read a comment that nailed it: social approval is replacing critical thinking. That hit me hard. It explained exactly what was happening to me. I wasn't thinking anymore, I was reacting. The industry I thought was creative had turned me into a reaction machine. I used to see myself as a storyteller, a strategist. But honestly, my brain was in constant fight or flight mode. Every ping of a notification sent a shot of adrenaline through me. Neuroscientists say notifications give you little dopamine hits. Just like gambling, your brain gets hooked, not on truth, but on the thrill of engagement. And I felt that. I wasn't creating. I wasn't questioning. I was just trying to keep up. I had become another cog in a system built to keep people scrolling instead of thinking. Everything I said in part one, the noise, the constant notifications, the way I'd stopped questioning and just started reacting, came to a head one morning. It was the day everything I thought I knew about myself cracked. It was 6:30 a.m. My phone buzzed so hard it woke me up. I rubbed my eyes, opened it, and there it was, a shaky video accusing one of the brands I managed of mistreating a customer. Nothing new, right? Except this time, the view counter was spinning like a slot machine. 500,000 views, 8,000, nearly 1 million in under 30 minutes. The comments were brutal. Thousands of strangers calling us heartless, tagging influencers, demanding boycotts. By the time I sat up in bed, my phone was already blowing up with calls. First my team, then my boss, then the VP. Everyone saying the same thing, golden hour. We need a response, now. Golden hour, that's PR code for your one shot to control the story before the internet decides who you are. I stumbled to the kitchen table, still in sweatpants hands, trembling over my laptop. Slack was chaos. One thread said it happened last night. Another said last week. Someone sent a voice memo that didn't match either. Legal was yelling, "Don't admit fault." Brand was begging for empathy. Sales wanted reassurance for partners. Reporters were already emailing me for comment. Every time I refreshed, the view count jumped 1.2 million, 1.4, 1.6. My chest tightened. My breathing was shallow. I couldn't think straight. And here's why, in that moment, my brain wasn't working logically. It was in survival mode. Scientists call it fight or flight. Your amygdala floods your body with cortisol, hijacking the part of your brain responsible for slow, rational thought. I wasn't calm or strategic. I was panicking. Out of desperation, I opened an old folder of safe crisis statements. I grabbed a generic line, rewrote a few words to match the outrage online, and almost hit send. And then I froze. Because in that second, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't leading this crisis. I wasn't thinking critically. I was parroting the crowd. A line from Kant flashed through my head. The mind's job is to synthesize ideas and make them your own. But I wasn't doing that. I was just copying, echoing, playing it safe, while my brain screamed at me to do something, anything. And that's when it hit me harder than the viral numbers, harder than the angry comments. Am I even living by my own judgment anymore? Or am I just repeating what everyone else says? That thought scared me more than losing the account or tanking stock prices. It was the moment I realized I'd drifted so far from myself, I didn't even recognize my own thinking anymore. After that morning, the panic, the chaos, the realization that I wasn't even thinking for myself, I couldn't shake one question. If I'm not in control of my own thoughts, who is? That question sent me down a rabbit hole. I started reading everything I could about how media marketing and public opinion are shaped. And that's when I came across Edward Bernays, the man they call the father of PR. Bernays came up with this chilling idea, the engineering of consent. The concept was simple but powerful. If you understand human psychology, you can guide people's choices without them realizing it. Bernays made people eat bacon for breakfast, got women to smoke by branding cigarettes as torches of freedom, and helped turn marketing into a science. He wasn't just selling products, he was shaping culture. And that hit me hard because isn't that exactly what I'd been doing? Every viral campaign I worked on, every trend I helped push, wasn't just about shoes or soda. It was influencing how people felt, thought, and acted. And then I asked myself the question that changed everything. If I'm shaping other people's thinking, who's shaping mine? So I dug deeper. I started studying social media algorithms, and what I found was sobering. These platforms aren't built to inform you. They're built to keep you scrolling. They feed you content that validates what you already believe, because outrage and validation keep you hooked. The goal isn't truth, it's your attention. And I was as hooked as everyone else. Then I stumbled back onto Noam Chomsky's work. He once said, the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. And that's exactly what I was living in, a noisy echo chamber that felt like freedom, but was really a cage. The worst part, I helped build that cage. I thought I was a strategist, But deep down, I realized I was just another cog in the machine that made people care more about headlines than facts, reactions over reasoning. I remember reading a comment under one of those viral videos. It said, "We don't need more problems," pointed out we need solutions. And they were right. I'd been blaming the algorithm, blaming the media. But the truth is, these systems only work because we let them. We crave validation. We scroll for distraction. We avoid discomfort. If I wanted to get my mind back, I couldn't just rage against the system. I had to start with myself. After that wake-up call, I stopped blaming the algorithm and decided to take responsibility. I didn't quit my job or disappear from the internet. That's not realistic in marketing. Instead, I started building habits that let me stay online without letting the internet run my life. First, I set digital boundaries, not a detox. I can't go completely offline, so I set strict times to check news and trends, 3 short check-ins a day. Outside those windows, I don't just check. I silenced almost every notification, except urgent ones from my crisis channels. I trimmed my feeds, muted outrage accounts, and started using a dashboard to manage all platforms in one place. Within a week, that constant background panic started to fade. I wasn't missing anything important, and my brain finally had a chance to breathe. Next, I rebuilt my focus with deep reading. My attention span was destroyed from scrolling, so I forced myself to read long-form articles, essays, even company reports. The first few days I caught myself skimming out of habit, but by week 2, I could sit with a full chapter without grabbing my phone. It felt like lifting weights for my brain. Then I added a thought journal before reacting. Now, before I post or respond to something, I pause for 60 seconds and ask myself 3 questions. What do I actually know? How do I know it? What would change my mind? That simple habit slowed me down in the best way. One viewer once said, "People need time to process, learn to pause." That line stuck with me. I also created a smart opposition lane. I saved a list of credible voices who don't agree with me. When a headline trends, I read one strong argument for and one against before forming an opinion. It's uncomfortable, but it's made me sharper and less reactive. Finally, I started practicing metacognition, watching my own thinking. Now I catch myself mid-scroll and label what's happening. That's anxiety, or that's confirmation bias. A few slow breaths in 4, hold 4 out 4, helps pull me out of fight or flight mode and back into clear thinking. And yes, it is scary how quickly collective approval can replace independent thought. But noticing that pull has become my guardrail. I didn't expect these small changes to make a big difference, but they did. My anxiety dropped. Those random panic spikes when my phone buzzed, almost gone. I'm not drowning in cortisol all day. My work got sharper. My crisis statements are calmer, clearer, and actually de-escalate situations instead of adding fuel. My boss even told me, "You sound more in control these days." Confidence came back. My ideas sound like mine again, not echoes of what's trending. Burnout eased. I can finally shut my laptop at night without my heart racing. Weekends feel like weekends again. I'm present at home. No scrolling through dinner. The phone stays in the kitchen. I actually listen to my son's stories and remember them. These habits didn't make me a monk. They made me human again. Reclaiming your mind isn't about disconnecting from the world. It's about owning your attention. And when you own your attention, your life and your work finally feel like they belong to you again. All those changes I made, setting boundaries, slowing down, questioning myself, helped me take my mind back. But here's the truth, I didn't do it alone. One comment I read months ago stuck with me. We're stronger when we come together, not just sharing knowledge, but opening each other's eyes to perspectives we'd never see alone. That line hit hard because it was exactly what I'd been missing. For years, I thought critical thinking was about winning arguments, proving I was right, shutting someone else down. But the real power of critical thinking isn't about winning. It's about listening, learning, and helping each other get smarter. Some of the best ideas I've ever had didn't come from me sitting behind a screen. They came from conversations, often uncomfortable ones, that forced me to see things differently. And here's something nobody tells you. Critical thinking isn't just an intellectual skill. It's a spiritual act. It's choosing truth over comfort, growth over certainty, freedom over approval. To really think critically, you have to question everything you lean on to feel safe, your beliefs, your identity, your community, your ideologies. And most people, they'd rather stay comfortable than face reality. But if you choose comfort over truth, you'll never see the systems shaping you, the manipulation, the algorithms, the social theater we all perform. The first glimpse of reality hurts, and it should, but that pain, that's the foundation of true freedom. So maybe the most radical thing you can do today isn't yelling louder or repeating slogans. It's choosing to think. Let the rest of the world keep scrolling, chasing likes, trading freedom for validation, but not you. Because when we come together not as an echo chamber, but as a group of people willing to think, we become something bigger than ourselves. We stop being noise. We start becoming a community that actually sees. You know what's wild? For years, I thought being plugged in meant I was informed smart ahead of the curve. But somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking for myself. And honestly, that scared me more than any viral crisis or angry comment section ever could. Taking back my mind wasn't some overnight transformation. It was messy, awkward, and uncomfortable. I had to face the fact that I'd let algorithms, noise, and pressure call the shots in my own head. But here's the good part. The second I started slowing down, questioning more, and paying attention to my own thoughts, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. Not perfection, not constant productivity, just peace and clarity. And if you're listening right now and you feel like your brain is stuck on autopilot, I want you to know something. You're not broken and you're not alone. This world is designed to keep us reactive and distracted. So if you're tired, anxious, or burnt out, that's not a personal failure. It's proof you're human. That's why I started The Truth MD, not to lecture, not to pretend I've got it all figured out, but to have honest conversations like this, stories that cut through the noise and remind us what really matters: truth, clarity, and connection. If this episode made you pause, even for a second, do me a favor, share it with someone you care about. Leave a comment with your thoughts, even if you don't agree with me. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Not because I need numbers, but because every new person who joins this conversation makes it stronger. We can't control the chaos out there, but we can take back control of what happens in here. Points to head, and that's where change really starts.